Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print-on-demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. We have a very exciting episode, a first for the Print on Demand Cast podcast, which we're very excited about. As always, I'm Josiah, and I'm joined once again by Travis Ross. Travis, how's things going, man?
Dude, I'm doing well. We're recording this on Sunday, and yesterday my Arsenal Gunners won the FA Cup for a record 14th time.
Okay,
which probably means nothing to most of our listeners.
Right? Yeah, I was just gonna say, explain what the FA Cup is, and maybe he's talking about soccer, folks. Travis and I have a lot in common. Our diehard love for soccer isn't one of them. He loves soccer. I love professional wrestling. Two vastly different things. But anyway, tell people what the FA Cup is.
Yeah, it's just a tournament. I mean, but in England, it's kind of like the Super Bowl to us, you know, U.S. guys. And
Okay.
Arsenal is a club I support, and they won it yesterday against Chelsea 2-1. It was a fun game to watch. Obviously, it's always fun when your team that you support wins.
Sure.
And yeah, so I don't want to go on, but you asked me how I was doing, man. I'm still basking in the glow.
It's been a good year for Travis. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Arsenal won the FA Cup. Which is fantastic. So moving along, this week, as always, we have a point of interest for you guys listening. And so I'm going to let Travis talk about the point of interest after the sound comes in, our bumper.
Hey, Johnny, what you doing after school? Oh, what do you have there? Is that a knife? It's a point of interest!
All right, Travis, tell the people what is interesting this week, or month, whatever.
Tell them what is interesting. All right. Well, in the world of print on demand, we highlight a little interesting bit. Printful, which is a huge print on demand company that a lot of people use to fulfill their orders. Yeah. So they took action against Printify, which is another huge company that a lot of people use to fulfill their orders on their websites and their different sales channels. I guess what happened, allegedly, is that Printify stole or copied some of Printful's code for that they used for their WooCommerce integrations, and Printify apparently somehow got a hold of this code or copied it or whatever and used it on their site. And so Printify have agreed to pay Printful $100,000 in compensation. And I guess Printful took that, and that was fine, and the case was settled, and that's it. It's just interesting, how two of these huge companies, are battling it out. I mean, it's just every other industry, I guess. You get to a certain size, and litigation becomes the name of the game, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seemed, and we were talking about this before we pressed record, that for two companies that are doing the kind of volume that they're doing in the size, it seems like $100,000 is a little small for that compensation. I would expect it would be at least $250,000 or $500,000 or something. But it seems like it was a very friendly litigation process, apparently.
Yeah, something with the word million in it, you would think.
Yeah, if it's something that's important to them as far as this WooCommerce, and I don't know if you know, what does the WooCommerce integration do for Printful that Printify stole?
Yeah, so WooCommerce is a WordPress plugin or program. I guess it's a plugin that people can use on their WordPress sites to do commerce, to do e-commerce. Yeah. And so it processes the orders, it processes the payments and all of that stuff for somebody that has a WordPress site. And so apparently Printful had an integration so they could take orders from a site that had WooCommerce on it. Printify saw that, took advantage of it, grabbed that same code so their users could also integrate with WooCommerce, and Printful noticed.
That's interesting. I don't know. That begs a lot of questions that we won't get into for sake of time, but you feel like if WooCommerce owns the integration code, unless they have an exclusivity with Printful, no one else can access the API to that, or how does that that work?
I think WooCommerce has an open API, and Printful, or maybe not, I don't know, but Printful wrote something that they owned. At least that's why Printify agreed to the $100,000 in compensation, because they basically stole something that Printful owned and created. Yeah, exactly. So who knows how you? I'm not a coder. I don't know how you trademark or copyright your code, but obviously I'm sure there's some type of first use type thing or whatever. But yeah, so that's this week's point of interest, Josiah.
Awesome. Now we're going to transition to the main event of this podcast, a first for us here at the P.O.D. cast, and that is we have our first interview.
Pretty excited.
That's super exciting. Before we bring him in, tell him who it is, how you know him, and then we'll introduce Mike to our listeners.
Sure. So I met Mike, a couple years ago. It was kind of a friend of a friend. I heard about this guy doing, lots and lots of print on demand projects, and just had a lot of kind of irons in the fire. And I really just wanted to meet him so I could learn from him, really, and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And so I reached out to him on Facebook. We ended up hitting a conference in California. On the print on demand industry, the Long Beach. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the conference. We'll ask Mike. He'll remember. But we hung out, and we've been friends ever since, and kind of just passed on different knowledge to each other, asked each other for ideas and things like that. And we're really excited to bring him on the podcast today. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm super excited to pick his brain and get to know more about what he's doing. I've heard of him through you, of course, but I'm super excited to chat with him on this week's episode. So without further ado, let's introduce Mike Perillo.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Travis has told me a lot about you, all good things, regardless of what you might think initially. He does talk about it. That's good. So yeah, exactly. No, tell us, Mike, a little bit about how did you get started in the print-on-demand industry? What was your first kind of foray into it and your introduction to the whole thing?
Well, I got to go back to when I was in fifth grade. I started building computers when I was in fifth grade, and I was way back then. That was like 92. I was trying to figure out how to print on T-shirts and make stickers for my friends, and needless to say, I failed pretty bad. Fast forward about 20-something years, maybe I was 24, and like a lot of 24-year-olds, I had a ton of debt, and I was working a tech job. And long story short, I bought a broken plotter, which is a large format printer, like one of those things that's like as large as your car.
Sure.
And figured out how to fix it. Had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to use Photoshop. I was handy. I was working in IT tech at the time for kind of one of the biggest tech companies out there. So I got this thing working and then figured out how I could print. Been basically large format posters with it and started selling them on eBay. And I kind of went from there. What happened after that is my friends would know I was doing that, and they would be like, "Hey man, could you make a coffee mug?" And I would be like, "Give me a couple of weeks." And I go out and I buy broken equipment and I'd fix it and then basically rinse and repeat until all the way to today, where we've got, I'm doing like 7 different types of on-demand printing in-house. So yeah, we've come a long way from those days in 5th grade when I totally failed at trying to figure out how to make T-shirts.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's incredible.
So obviously this is your full-time gig. When did you actually go full-time and, kind of quit the tech thing and move into print on demand full-time?
Yeah, so around 2006 is when I started kind of doing that large format printing thing. And, I'd have family and friends come over and to at that point it was at my house, and they'd help me fulfill orders while I was at work. And I kind of bounced around jobs a little bit. That was kind of during the housing bust, like 2008, 2009. So I got laid off a few times. I was out of work for like 9 months. And then one of my former employers called me back for like 2 years. And in 2011, they laid me off. And I got, at that point, I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a while. I think I can really do something with this business. And I'm tired of being laid off. I'm happy that I had the business to kind of fall back on those times that I was out of work.
Right.
But I knew that if I had, 40 or 50 hours of my life back a week, that I could kind of grow this thing up and, see where it took me.
Yeah. So you were selling on eBay originally. I know that you're selling on Amazon as well. I'm curious to know, what different kinds of business models? I know you sell on channels, but what other things have you kind of explored and tried, maybe tried and failed and tried and won? Give us some examples of some of that stuff.
Yeah, like you said, I started out on eBay in around 2009. I got into Amazon, at least for coffee mugs. We weren't able to do apparel at that time because they had it locked down until about 2011 when they opened it back up. But we've bounced around and done all kinds of things. We've outsourced orders to other people to do, drop shipping. We've drop shipped for other people. We've done, we had a storefront for a while where we, in the local area. I'm in Northern California, and so we had
a physical location.
Yes, we had a physical location. Okay. It was on purpose. We moved into a space that had like a little retail storefront thing, and so we started offering business to local customers, and most of it was like word of mouth. We did a little bit of advertising here and there. I did some Google ads. So we've done the service printing thing, whether it be, on-demand printing. A lot of the jobs that came through the front door were always like 1 shirt or 2 shirts. We did dabble in screen printing for a little bit. We decided that we didn't really like doing that because it was too messy, so we started outsourcing that. The model so what I'm doing right now is, I'm currently fulfilling for some of our clients on different channels. We're doing our own printing, so we have our own designs out there on, our websites, on Amazon, eBay. We've created a couple of brands, a couple of local brands for, some people in the area that kind of make sense in their niche. National brands, which is more like just funny T-shirts and things like that, but they all kind of fit into a space. And then we kind of came up with this crazy idea, and it's one that I've been kind of talking to you about in the last 6 months, called 3PL Custom. It's kind of an interesting concept. As far as I know, nobody's doing it, so if anybody's out there, please don't steal my idea. But so how it works is, Travis, you and I know a lot of Amazon sellers, and they have a lot of products, but a lot of people aren't really familiar with print on demand, and they're even less familiar with personalization and customization. So what this new division that we put together does is it, we onboard Amazon sellers, or anybody really. It doesn't have to be an Amazon seller. It could be anybody that can have the ability to offer personalization on whatever platform they're selling with. So that can be Etsy, that can be Shopify, that could be Amazon. It could be other ones, but it's a little more manual. And how the program works is there's an introduction, piece where we have the seller send us a couple samples of the product that they want to offer personalization on, and we kind of just basically do some tests on the thing, see what it's made out of, figure out the best way to print on demand on it. then we go back to them with an offer and basically say, this is what we can offer you. This is the best way based on our experience that we think your customers might want to see this product. And, that can be like, if it's like, linens, it would be embroidery. If it's like a plastic toy, we might be using UV printing on it. Obviously making sure everything's safe as well. And then how it works is we basically, okay, we took a look at your niche, and we think you should send in this this minimum amount of units. And what we do is we'll store them for you. We'll help you get all set up, so we'll make sure that everything's streamlined. So when an order comes into your sales channel, it automatically comes into our system. We pull your item off the shelf. We personalize it with, like I said, whatever method that we've agreed upon. Embroidery, UV printing, laser engraving, whatever the product calls for. And then we ship it direct to your customer. So that's kind of the latest. Yeah, that's the latest thing we've been working on, and that's probably my latest foray into on-demand. Kind of just trying to expand the space and try to be innovative.
So, like, if I have for example, a wedding store online or something, and I want to do like gifts for groomsmen or something, and I source flasks or something like that. I send my flasks to you. Yep. And then when the sales come in, I say, what do you want it to say? Maybe give them some options or whatever. And you laser engrave that on the flasks and send them out for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that basically the idea?
Yeah, usually we'll help you set up even down to like the fonts, or if you want to be able to offer a photograph on it, if that kind of makes sense, down to the colors, like, hey, this is a dark product, so you're probably going to want to go with a little bit of lighter colors. I mean, we white glove it all the way through. And that first introduction period, there isn't any cost to that. We do that all for free because we want to help you guys sell more. Sure. And because it benefits us too, and it benefits you. It's kind of a mutual agreement that, we're all here to make money, and we want to help you. So through our years and years of expertise in on-demand printing, we can offer that kind of service. And, we feel pretty good about it. We're like really excited about it.
That's cool. Well, we'll definitely talk about that again at the end. You can give us the website, or if our listeners want more information, we'd love for them to contact you.
Sure thing.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
go ahead, Travis.
Go ahead, Josiah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna commend you. I mean, that's super innovative. I love that idea. Is super unique. I certainly have not ever heard of anything like that. And again, if you're listening, don't steal it, because Mike will find you and he'll take you out. So, speaking of being innovative and having to kind of pivot and think on your feet, we've all been affected by this pandemic that we're in, COVID-19, since, February, March, or whatever. A lot of businesses are having to think on their feet, find different ways to bring income and revenue during shutdowns and all that kind of stuff. So for your business models, has there been an effect from COVID-19? And if so, what has that been, and what have you done to try and kind of navigate through this unprecedented time that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenging time. It first started with some supply chain issues in early February, where we weren't able to get some of the stuff that our raw materials that we stocked,
sure.
Or blanks that we sourced and offered on our products, or even on our personalization websites. And I'm also in California. I'm in a county in California called Contra Costa County, and we were, I believe we were one of the first counties to go on shelter in place. So at that time, there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was a lot of confusion. Businesses didn't know whether they could operate. There was like, there's rules from the state, but then there's rules from the county, and the county supersedes the state unless the county's less strict than the state. It was kind of a mess. We were able to continue operating under the sense that we did things for essential services. So we did uniforms for like electricians, and nurses, and things like that. So we were able to stay running, but we took precautions too. We had to do all the normal stuff in house, like we sent anybody that didn't physically have to be there to make a product. We sent them home, and they're honestly probably not coming back to work because it's been working so well with them out of the office. So the sales part of it has been really interesting. From about the middle of March to the beginning of April was super dismal. I mean, we even shut down all of our offerings for a few days, and then tried to, work with our 3PL customers. And what ended up happening is around the beginning of April, the stimulus check started to hit, and unemployment's federal funding went through the roof. So our sales went up a lot. Amazon also shut down merch, as some of you listening may know and have dealt with. That was kind of a mess, but people like me that had clients with designs sitting out there on Amazon, regular Amazon seller accounts, their business quadrupled overnight. It was really an unprecedented time, and it lasted for about 2 months, almost all the way to Father's Day, and then it fell off a cliff. So we're kind of back down. We're looking at what's happening. We're trying to figure out what the best way as a business is to proceed, and that includes, responsibility for our employees, trying to meet our customers' needs. There's been a lot of things. Travis, you and I have kind of talked about this. Like we've had USPS delivery problems. We've had problems with almost every single carrier, either getting stuff to us or sending out, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. It created a large amount of administrative work for every single company on the planet, because now they had to follow all these new rules. They had to keep distance. A lot of times, I even heard Amazon fulfillment centers were struggling because they had to keep people 6 feet apart. And so you couldn't have multiple people working in an assembly line anymore. And that just kind of translates to every single business that was out there. Unfortunately, some restaurants got it worse than others, but even in manufacturing sector, it's been a mess, and we've definitely felt it. We're a little uncertain for the future. We are exploring a couple options. I don't mean we're uncertain like we're going to go out of business, but I just mean like we're trying to adapt to the current space. Sure. And one thing that, the first thing I looked at is like, okay, I have no idea what to expect for Q3, Q4, even Q1 2021. There are no forecast models for anything like this. I see a lot of uncertainty in people. And a lot of the products that we sell kind of tailor to the novelty industry, and also personalization too. You've got weddings that aren't happening. You've got bachelor parties that aren't happening. In certain states like mine, guys can't go down to the bar with a funny T-shirt on and just, be there. Yeah. So these industries are kind of affected. And, we're taking this time to kind of reevaluate how we operate, how we're doing things. Are we being efficient? Are we using our resources as best we can? Do we have too much space? One of the big things right now, we're in a pretty large facility in the Bay Area of California. It's pretty expensive here, but we're kind of banking on the fact that property is going to drop, residential and commercial. So we're actually looking to move into something a little bit smaller right now to kind of just ride the storm out and see where things end up. And it's also causing us to take a look at some of our product lines and see, are these really worth continuing? Are we making the margin? Are we making the margins we need to make?
Sure.
Is it worth it? How are sales? For example, you mentioned Flask earlier. I can tell you a quick funny thing about that. As soon as shelter-in-place orders started coming into place, our Flask sales fell off a cliff because nobody had to hide drinking anymore. So that went down. But things like coffee mugs and like pint glasses, which you kind of sit around your house normally or drink or whatever, those sales went up. So it was kind of interesting to even look at it at a granular level, like and what is really happening out there? What are people doing? And a lot of this business, is on-demand printing, and depending on what design you have or what you're selling it on, really you got to look at what's going on in the world, because you can look at your sales and you can basically kind of come up with a story, like what's happening. Okay, everybody's at home, nobody has to hide drinking anymore, right. And then other things kind of go crazy, like our large format printing business kind of blew up when everybody was stuck at home because they were decorating their walls, right? And we're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Everybody's working from home and they're sitting in a room like I am with hardly anything on the walls. Like, man, I'd really like to have, some sort of print or family photos or something there. And, those sales kind of went up. So it's the Twilight Zone. It's really strange. It's almost like we stepped off into an alternate dimension, but what it really comes down to is being able to adapt and pivot quick as possible, like just on a whim. Like that's something that we've always focused on, is being able to pivot as quick as possible. And, we've done that through, personnel and software that we've written in-house that does simple things. Just being spatially aware is really what COVID has kind of brought to the table. And it's good. You should always do that anyway, but it's almost like a heightened sense of kind of just being awareness or being spatially aware of what's going on.
Yeah. COVID kind of forced the issue in a lot of ways, and probably forced a lot of us into better business practices, honestly, thinking in better ways about our businesses. It really did. It forced the issue. So you kind of mentioned the future of your business, and kind of the things that you're thinking about doing and transitioning to. What do you see as the future for the print on demand industry? I mean, it's almost impossible. I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball or anything, and things are so strange right now. Maybe, how about this? What if I ask you, a year ago, what did you see the future of the print on demand industry compared to how you see it now?
That's going to be an interesting comparison. So about a year ago, we started the 3PL custom project, because we saw that there was a huge gap for personalization out there. A lot of people were selling designs in bulk, but most customers couldn't go in and type in, a family name or something, or even just have something I call semi-customizable designs, which is like the elements of the design are mostly static, except there's parts that you can change. So we, a year ago, started working on 3PL custom because we saw like a huge, there's a huge gap. There's a huge opportunity there. And now, like I was saying, it's really uncertain. I think I think personalization is still going to be there. I think, what are we, like 4 months into this thing? Like March to, end of July. Yeah, 4.5 months into everything kind of just changing overnight. I think, unfortunately, it seems like it's going to be a little longer before we feel things stabilize. But what's happening in there is you're having there's little micro industries kind of popping up, like the whole mask thing. Like that was, that product didn't really exist prior to like March 16th. And then all of a sudden it was hugely inflated. So for the print on demand business, I think what the future holds is it's really going to depend on how much people can pivot and how innovative people can be to take a look at things in your everyday life and say, could this be something that could be personalized? Is this something that is there an opportunity with certain products there? Do I need to make shirts that, like give people a chuckle, even if it has to do with COVID, did the print on demand industry go from, being, slightly witty for people at the bars, wearing funny t-shirts, to cheering somebody up that's dealing with financial hardships, or, maybe they lost their job, or, maybe I think it'll become pretty important for people to just have designs and things on the fly ready to go to really, just cheer people up and bring a little bit of laughter to their lives, because right now things are very serious everywhere. We're all dealing with it. Everybody's struggling. Some people are struggling more than others. Hopefully everybody that's listening is in good health, but maybe, some of you are not, and maybe something like, maybe something like a funny coffee mug about an old story will, bring that person at least a little bit of joy, or bring back some good memories. We've definitely, on a lot of the stuff that we sell, personalization and other things, we've, for our brands, we've got email follow-ups that, send out a message that, it's kind of a witty thing. It says like, thank you for buying the product. We rejoiced and we had a party when you ordered it. But what we really want to know is why you bought this. Like what's the story? And this is literally what the email says. Like, what's the story? Come on, we know there's a story behind what you bought. And we're getting all kinds of interesting answers. I mean, some honestly are pretty sad, and, we just want to reach through the computer and give the person on the other side a hug. Some are hilarious. That's just like somebody reminiscing about, an adventure they had when they were 20 or maybe 2 years ago or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I think really I think the future of POD is just going to be, you got to be quick on your feet. I think one thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about is like, I don't know what's going to happen with technology. Like, I don't know if we're going to get new innovative pieces of equipment out. It's kind of like the movie industry. Like, I feel like, we know that like they're not recording or they're not, filming a lot of stuff, but I'm kind of been wondering if the technology sector is going to suffer too. Like, are we going to have a huge gap in innovative products because people can't go into the office and do, or maybe, like R&D is way slowed down because everybody's at home and nobody can, tinker. I don't know, it might be, the next wave of POD could be somebody like me that is just screwing around with, my direct-to-garment printer and figure out something super innovative I can do with it that isn't printing on T-shirts.
Right.
So I think a lot of it may, the next wave could be little shops and things like that are just backed up against a wall trying to make money, and then they just come up with some fantastic ideas to kind of put out there, and, that's the next wave of amazing things. So.
Yeah, what is this saying? Necessity is the mother of invention. Is that something? I might be paraphrasing that, but yeah, it seems like it might be. When there's a necessity to pivot and to learn and to be innovative, you have to. So that could be a lot of what's on tap for sure.
Yeah, or accidents too. You screw around and you all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is really cool. I can mix these 3 different types of printing technology and come up with something super amazing, and you're like, nobody had done it before, and you're like checking around, you're checking on all the forums and the Facebook groups, and you're like, man, nobody's doing this. This is cool, So, our stuff has always happened. I hate to say this, but it's funny. It's like kind of the most innovative things we've ever done have either happened out of necessity, like we were backed against a wall, and we're like, okay, if we got to get to the next phase of business, like we're gonna have to make some serious changes. And other times it's just been like, hey, I took this thing and I put it in this printer and the ink stuck. We're like, whoa, okay, cool. That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
So Mike, a lot of the people, I'll preface it with this. So Travis and I, the reason we wanted to start this podcast is because when we were starting out on the print-on-demand journey, there wasn't a lot of material or content like this to kind of help supplement what we were learning practically while we were learning how to print and reading forums and that kind of stuff. So, a large portion of the listeners might be people who are just getting into it, some people that are thinking about diving into print-on-demand. If you could give one tip or a pro tip or a trick to someone that's looking to grow their POD business or someone looking at getting into POD, what would that be?
I could probably say a couple of things. One,
please do.
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I would say is try to do something that no one else is doing. Try to be as innovative as possible.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I am not saying go out and buy $100,000 direct-to-garment printer and, without knowing anything.
Sure.
I think at this time, it's a good time to take a look at, and actually probably coming up pretty soon, it'll be a good time to look at used equipment out there. Even if I'm speaking from the point of view if you're actually printing yourself. That innovative thing goes all the way around. If you're making designs and you're using companies like Printful to fulfill, just make sure that your stuff is make sure you're doing stuff that nobody else is, because you might hit something that works really well, something that goes viral. Pay attention to what's going on in the world. If you're looking to get into actually doing printing, in a couple of months, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of equipment out there used for sale. Some other businesses that weren't able to adapt or be innovative are probably going to fold up, and that's going to create a large opportunity for you to get equipment at a low cost. And when you get that piece of equipment, now's a good time to get in this space, because like you guys were saying, I mean, man, when I started way back when, there was nothing. Even when I started to go to printing trade shows in like 2009, it was like a lot of mom and pops. Those were the loneliest trade shows I'd ever been to. And what I mean by that is all the mom and pops were scared to talk to other people, except, a vendor about a piece of equipment. But
sure,
nobody went out to dinner with them. Everybody was like so afraid that somebody else was going to steal their idea. And now, with the, internet and Facebook groups and all this stuff and podcasts, it's like there's so much information out there that we're all helping each other grow. So now it's a fantastic time to get in this industry because there are a lot of resources that you can look at. And if you don't even want to do printing, you don't have to. If you don't want to do designing, you don't have to. There are a lot of ways out there where you can, you can pay a designer on Upwork to put together something for you. You can put that into Printful, and you can, start a Shopify site and sell. And you can get at, you can kind of just guide the process like overall and have the experts, that you kind of pay to do these things, do them for you. So there's a level of, you can jump into this and be like almost entirely hands off, or you can jump into it and be totally entirely hands on. So, but be innovative and keep an eye on what's going on in the world, because a lot of it's going to give you a little insight into something that might go crazy or be the next big thing. So.
Sure. Awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, and guys, listeners, I just want to say, Mike knows his stuff. He's been doing it for almost, full time for almost 10 years. I personally know between his own Amazon and the accounts that he's, in charge of, he's got millions and millions of listings. Millions, guys, millions.
Yeah, we're responsible for that.
Tell us a little. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I come from an IT background, so when I got into this industry, I had to figure out how to sell stuff, and eBay was easy. Amazon was easy, but like everybody else, I kind of made mistakes up front. I didn't look at maybe what was out there. Right? I didn't really. I might have been in a little bit of a vacuum, and at some point, like a ton of bricks, an idea hit me, which is like, I wonder if I could, take some of my tech abilities and write software to do something that nobody else is doing out there. When we started working with other brands and things like that, and they wanted to put a lot of SKUs on Amazon. At first the idea of like creating mock-ups, one by one in Photoshop, or even using the automation tool was crazy idea. And then there was nothing really to put together like flat files or automate even the one by one listing process, except maybe like Turbo Lister, but that thing was pretty bad back in the day. So long story short, I had some contacts with a developer that was local to me. I'd actually worked with him at a company a couple years before, and I started giving him a little bit of work here on the side, and kind of just explained, what I needed, and he would put together the tools for me to, be able to launch millions and millions of SKUs on Amazon using almost entirely automated technology, except to the point where we had to upload the flat file. And, it's definitely been an interesting journey to take tech, mix it with P.O.D, and then mix it with e-commerce. It's kind of an interesting little thing that we've kind of come around to.
Yeah, the reason I wanted you to share that is because I think that's an example of what you were talking about, being innovative, doing something that nobody else is doing. You basically created software that helped you automate a portion of the business that allowed you to do exponentially more business. And so I just think that's a great, example of that tip that you just gave our listeners,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. It's a scary journey when you're on the road by yourself in the middle of nowhere at night. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. You're looking around like, is there anybody out there that could help me? I'd go to trade shows and I'd talk about this stuff, and everybody would just look at me like, you did what? I'm like, yeah, wait, you guys aren't doing stuff like this? And they'd be like, no. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
To your point, Mike, I mean, we talked about it a couple episodes ago when Josiah and I went to Portland to an NBM show, and we were just talking to people, printers, just your regular printers that happened to be there, about e-commerce. And they were like, e-commerce? What? Why would we sell e-commerce? And they were all local sellers, and, yep. And so it's kind of that, you take your expertise. In our case, it was e-commerce, and you take an industry and you kind of meld the two. And what you did was you took, print on demand and you melded it with your industry of tech, and automation, and you were able to create something that was unique and special. I think that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, and just an example for listeners, I was sitting here thinking about that. If you took let's say you were either a drop shipper or even you have equipment to do personalization. I mean, there's a lot of industries out there. Like one of them is the pet industry. Like we had an idea a couple of years ago to go exhibit at a pet trade show for personalized dog T-shirts. We never got it off the ground, so if anyone wants to do it, feel free. But that's just another example of how you can take, you can take your expertise in one world. Maybe you're in the, maybe you're in the pet industry and you had never thought about using Printful to make something that could work in that industry, and you could kind of meld the two together. Totally. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can do with print on demand and personalization, and just drop into almost every single industry, especially if it's an industry that you're already familiar with. And I mean, that's a lot of times that's how people end up making that transition. Like maybe they're working in an office for somebody, for a company that does something in the pet industry, and they start this little thing on the side, and all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to make the jump. I'm going to leave this job and I'm going to go work on my business, which is personalization in the pet industry. And, everything after that is history, and it's fulfilling and it's amazing.
That's cool. Well, hey, Mike, tell us, so if some of our listeners are interested in getting in touch with you and learn a little more about 3PL, and give us some contact information and a little kind of summary of what type of person may want to explore that with you.
Okay. So our new division is called 3PL Custom. That's the number 3, P as in Paul, L, CUSTOM.com. So 3PLcustom.com. You can reach me at mike@3plcustom.com. And if anybody's interested in the service, it's if there's any e-commerce sellers out there, maybe you have a product that 3PL is good for a couple of things. It's good for it's good for people that might have a product that's kind of dying off that they want to rejuvenate, maybe offering personalization on it. I mean, if you're in the supplement industry, you're probably not going to do much with it. But, if you're in toys or, home goods, things like dish towels and all that stuff, that, we are where you would want to be. And so people like that would actually definitely benefit from using our service.
Cool. Well, Mike, I was going to let Josiah, say thanks, but I don't know what he's doing. He's like looking out the window or something. I think he muted himself.
Yeah, I think.
I think you're muted there.
I accidentally
Josiah.
muted myself. Well, there you go.
Oops.
There you go.
Well, thanks, Mike.
No problem. Had a great time talking to you guys.
Yeah. No, seriously, thank you so much. You are our first guest on the P.O.D.
really?
cast.
Yeah.
Wow. You popped the guest cherry. Yeah.
I feel so special.
We'll get you a custom coffee mug to commemorate the occasion.
Awesome. Do I have to print it myself?
Yes.
That's
yes,
in the fine
actually.
print. Yeah, we're gonna go over that off the air, but I guess we'll tell you now. Yeah. Seriously. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us, man. It's been awesome, and I'm sure that there's plenty for listeners to kind of grasp onto and follow up with you later if they want and find out more. And thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Yeah, and if anybody's got any questions outside of 3PL Custom, if you just want to ask me anything about print on demand or my experience, or melding tech with e-commerce and print on demand, feel free to send me an email. Definitely love talking to people about print on demand and really anything business wise. I'm a business guy at heart. I love talking about business.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And then we can end it. We're going to record our outro separate, Travis.
No, you can just do it now.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just chop that right out. All right. So once again, we want to thank Mike Perillo for being on the podcast this week for our first interview. Lots of awesome information there. For those listening,
that dude knows his stuff, right, Josiah?
He does. He's probably, one of the more well-versed people that I've had the chance to interact with the amount of stuff he's doing in printing. Yeah. Forms of printing and different stuff like that. So the 3PL thing's fantastic.
He's doing so many things. And the other thing I was just going to say is he is by far the most handsome guy we've ever interviewed on the podcast.
Yeah, not only is he the first, he's the most handsome, and he will hold that title.
Stop it, guys. Well, I'll hold that title for at least one episode, probably. So, sure, there's much more handsome P.O.D. people out there than me, or beautiful too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Oh man, so.
All right, bring us home, Josiah.
Yes. So if you're listening and you want more information about the podcast, you can go to printondemandcast.com. If you want to follow up with Travis or myself, have a question for us, have a question you'd like to relay to Mike, or have a topic that you'd like for us to cover, you can email us at info@printondemandcast.com. As always, please remember to rate and subscribe on iTunes. It helps us so much. If you found this information helpful, please do that for us. We'd be very thankful. So from here, we're going to go to the outro music that transforms humans' hearts and minds. I say that every week because Travis puts it in the notes, and until it's not there anymore, I will say it every week. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
All right, see you later. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.